The Suns have a lot of decisions to make before the start of next season. Will they keep Booker or trade him for a rebuild? Let's figure it out on this edition of The Nest. Hello everybody, welcome back to The Nest Star XP. We are officially in the NBA offseason. Well, officially, the NBA players are still going on as I'm recording this, but we've officially hit the draft lottery, so we can actually start talking about some of these teams. But the team we're going to be talking about is actually not in the lottery, and that is the Phoenix Suns, who I think are going to be somebody to keep an eye on this offseason because of the big decisions surrounding Booker, Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, and other such players. So we're going to keep an eye on them. But before we get into it, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure to go check out the TikTok, the Instagram for short form content, and more info as I cover the NBA playoffs and some other stuff going on around the league. So go check those out. Now, the Suns were actually one of the first teams that I was working on who I saw having two very different paths when they were rebuilding or when they were rebuilding this offseason. And I actually decided, you know what, screw it. Let's make two separate paths. One where they trade Devin Booker and one where they keep Devin Booker and continue to try to compete with him. So what do those things look like and how do they differ? And that's what we're going to be discussing. First off, let's go down the Devin Booker route, keeping Devin Booker and kind of continuing with this core. What does that look like? Well, honestly, there wasn't a ton of changes to make with it. The primary one was just trading Jalen Green, and there are two options that I drew up. The first option was trading Jalen Green for Domantas Sabonis and 2 second-round picks. I don't hate this trade, but I think, especially now with the Kings getting the pick that they have, it's going to be very point guard heavy around that area. So I think they would be better suited not to get another wing or another guard alongside of their core. So instead, I made the trade Jalen Green for Ja, and obviously you'd probably have to include some second round picks with Jalen Green in order to get Ja, but it's basically going to be a 1-for-1. Now, how would both teams make this? The primary reason is that I think Ja is he's an actual point guard, so he fits better alongside Devin Booker, and in terms of the Grizzlies, they just need to get off of Ja. They need to get a younger player back for him. It helps them in their rebuilding process. They can always flip Jalen Green again later on for another player, but I think Jalen Green's going to be a lot easier to get off of contract-wise compared to Ja, and I think he's going to be a little more desirable to some teams. So that's the main reason why Memphis do it. Also, getting second-round picks out of it won't hurt either. And other than that, they just need to re-sign Colin Gillespie and re-sign Mark Williams, and then that's it. That's their whole rebuild because they can just kind of keep their core. They can't really do much more with Devin Booker and now Ja Morant's contracts. They just, because Mark Williams and then Colin Gillespie, they're going to be relatively expensive. Not terribly, but they're going to be relatively expensive. So you're not going to be able to make a ton of free agency signings. So that would leave them with a team looking like this. Obviously, you're going to have Ja Morant and Devin Booker running the backcourt. You're going to have Dillon Brooks and Ryan Dunn running the 2 starting forward positions. Or you can have any other forward if you want to have Royce O'Neal or Rasheed Fleming, whatever the case may be. And then you're going to have Mark Williams at the starting 5. And then off the bench, obviously, Colin Gillespie, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, or Ryan Dunn if you choose to start Royce, Rasheed Fleming, and then Malawak or Ikadoro or whoever, because they have like 3 centers as well. So they have options in that regard. And that's just the team. Again, it's a relatively similar team that they have this year, but it's a little bit better fit, hopefully a little bit healthier overall, and a little bit better suited now that they have some experience and more time together. So that's it in that regard. But moving on, now let's discuss what happens if they trade Devin Booker and what they should do if they go down that route. Now, this route was a lot more complicated because of Devin Booker's contract. As a player, he's pretty desirable. As a contract, he's probably one of the more undesirable players in the league. And so going through and trying to find a good trade for him was a pain in the rear. But I drew up several good options for us as we start looking at Devin Booker trades. The first one that I saw that I kind of broke down was a trade with the Raptors, because I think the Raptors do need another player like Devin Booker, a more score-heavy offensive player to play alongside Scottie Barnes, who's a good offensive player on his own right, but he's a little more defensive-heavy, and he needs a more shot creator, catch-and-shoot, play finisher guy rather than another like defensive guy or another secondary option. So I have this trade drawn up. So the Raptors will receive Devin Booker and Grayson Allen in this trade, and the Suns will get back Brandon Ingram, Emmanuel Quickley, Grady Dick, and 3 first-round picks. all from the Raptors, 2026, 2027, and 2028. One of those being a pick swap. Like the 2028 or 2027 is the pick swap. So I like that trade as a nice starting zone or a nice like starting place for them. I don't know if Brandon Ingram or Emmanuel quickly really fit the timeline for this team since they're rebuilding, but it's a nice start for this second trade option, I should say, that kind of is that same concept, but it broke it up a bit more with more teams to allow everybody to kind of be where they need to be. So this trade is, again, Phoenix and Toronto, but now we include the Detroit Pistons. So in this trade, the Detroit Pistons will acquire Brandon Ingram to be the co-star alongside Cade Cunningham. The Raptors will acquire Paul Reed and Devin Booker, and then the Suns will acquire Duncan Robinson, Ron Holland, Chaz Lanier, Emmanuel Quickley, and Grady Dick, on top of maybe a first-round pick or two from the Raptors. So what I like about this trade is that it leaves you with the ability not to tank, but with the ability to not be good, but it also gives you a ton of young talent to build around because Ron Holland is obviously a young player. Grady Dick is still very young. He's going to be pretty solid. You're going to get the picks as well. You get off of Devin Booker's contract and give more freedom and range to the rest of the team, and we're going to make more trades that kind of go through what they should do. But I like this trade for them. I like it more than the other one, the other Brandon Ingram trade, because now you don't have Brandon Ingram's contract to worry about. The Pistons get their second co-star. The Raptors get Devin Booker, which is what they wanted, and they also get a backup center in Paul Reed. So I like this trade for all parties. The next guy that we need to get off the books is Dillon Brooks. He's not bad by any means, and he's relatively old. He's like 30, 31 now, so you need to get off him if you're going to rebuild. So I drew up a couple trades for him. The first trade that I drew up was to the Lakers for Jared Vanderbilt, Jake LaRavia, and Dalton Connect. Pretty cut and dry. Lakers need a defensive guy to play alongside Luka. Dillon Brooks fits that pretty well. And if you're the Suns, you just get Jake LaRavia and Dalton Connect, two relatively young players, and then Jared Vanderbilt's contract is just to match that. Cool, whatever. The next trade I drew up that I'm not actually a fan of that much, but I had to draw it up just to see if it was possible, was a trade with the Golden State Warriors. And this trade's a relatively big one just because it involves both Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks, and it looks something like this. You got Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks going to the Warriors, obviously, and then the Suns are going to acquire Brandon Podziemski, Jimmy Butler, and 2 second-round picks from the Warriors. I've mentioned this about my Clippers video. I don't like this trade terribly for the Warriors, or I don't like the Warriors giving up picks necessarily, but I think for Dillon Brooks and Jalen Green, I think it works well because you get two guys that will be there a little bit long term, and you can continue to compete. So I kind of like this trade for the Warriors. For the Suns, you get Jimmy Butler, who's an expiring contract, which is good. You get 2 first-round picks, that's good, and you get Brandon Podziemski. I don't hate it. I don't know if I like it better than the Lakers trade, but I think it would. Since you're getting the picks, I do think it might be better. Now, this final trade you can't do if you do the Warriors trade, but I still drew it up because I think it's still something that the Suns should do, and I think I like this trade better paired alongside the original Dillon Brooks trade, and it looks something like this. It involves the Nets and the Orlando Magic. So this is a 3-team trade that mainly benefits the Magic. It helps them get what they need, and the Suns are kind of just, I don't want to say an equalizer in it, but you'll see what I mean in just a second. So the Nets will acquire Jalen Green and 2 first-round picks, 1 from Orlando and 1 from the Suns. The Magic will acquire Michael Porter Jr. from the Nets, and then the Suns will acquire Franz Wagner from the Magic. Now, why would any team make this trade? Well, the Nets, they're rebuilding. They didn't get the first overall pick this year, so they need to continue to rebuild. They're going to trade and get a young player in Jalen Green. They get off of Michael Porter Jr.'s contract. They get first-round picks out of it. That's good for them, whatever. Why would the Magic give up Franz for Michael Porter Jr.? Simply put, fit. Michael Porter Jr. fits a hell of a lot better than Franz Wagner does with Paulo Banchero. And I like this trade for them because I'm going to be doing a Magic rebuild later on. I made a similar trade for them with this. But it gives them a shot creator and a floor spacer. It improves all that, and you need to get off of either Jalen Suggs or Franz Wagner in order to get this done. So I went with Franz in this instance because it's just kind of a 1-for-1. You trade small forward for small forward. But if you wanted to do Jalen Suggs instead, I could see it also working in that regard. And other than that, that's about it. You now have a relatively young team who still can grow and compete a little bit as they see fit, and it looks something like this. You obviously you're going to re-sign Colin Gillespie again, by the way. You get Colin Gillespie to run point guard. Grady Dick will be starting at shooting guard. Ron Holland will get the start at small forward to give him reps and give him minutes. Franz Wagner will be the power forward, and then Mark Williams will be the starting center. And then off the bench, you're going to have all your contract guys that you got from the trade. Emmanuel Quickly, who you can maybe trade at the deadline for more stuff. Duncan Robinson, Dalton Connect, Rasheer Fleming, Ryan Dunnan, Malawak or Iguodaro or whoever. You have a young team. Most of your guys are extremely young there. Colin Gillespie is 26 or something like that, so you can trade him later on, maybe get more value back from him. But no, I like this a little bit better for the Suns long term. Again, they don't really have their pick, so it's kind of tricky to do this. So it really is just, do they feel comfortable enough rebuilding, or do they feel confident enough in a team like this to rebuild? So I don't know. Or to not rebuild if they feel more confident that they can win with Devin Booker. So it's up to them in that regard. But let me know what you think. Do you think the Suns should trade Devin Booker? Do you think they should keep going with their core, or what do you think they should do? Let me know in the comments down below, and make sure to stay tuned for more content because I will be continuing to cover each team as we get deeper into the off season. So let me know what you think, and remember, y'all, peace.